Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good afternoon to everyone, to whoever is tuning um, today's live webinar. We're going to give you the best that you need for your CFR knowledge and also to equip yourself with all the necessary skills in delivering CFR to your students. In fact, you are going to implement this aspiration to make sure that our students are going to upgrade their level of proficiency in the language. It's not an easy job. It's such a big task for everyone. You teachers, I hope that you are doing fine so far. Take a break if you must during this upcoming school holiday, which is going to be next week. So I do hope that you are setting your mind right and get proper rest. But in the meantime, before you go for your long holiday that you have been anticipating for weeks now, for months now, you can take this moment to get and grasp the actual concept of what CEFR all about. And we are going to find out more information and in-depth clarification of what CFR is from our guest speaker today, which is none other than Dr. Yap, our national or master trainer for the CFR. And for your information, okay, this live broadcast is actually organized by the MPKD Bahasa Inggeris of Johor Bahru, as well as the Sektor Pembelajaran, or in fact, Unit Bahasa of Sektor Pembelajaran Pejabat Pendidikan Daerah Johor Bahru. Welcome again to those who. So if this is your first time watching our show. This is one of the shows that we have been broadcasting to our teachers in Johor Bahru. We have a number of shows, a number of programs, a number of live webinars that we have been um, doing live, the SPM, and also sesi libat urus with the parents and teachers to make sure that you understand what PDPR is all about. So we have a number of shows. So this channel is all about the betterment of education and academic achievement for Johor Bahru district. And I would like to remind you, if you were one of the participants, if you were one of the participants from yesterday's broadcast, please make sure that you fill in your attendance because we're going to close it a few hours after today's session has ended. So we are going to do that. So please make sure if you attended yesterday's session, you fill in your attendance and you do that again for today's live broadcast. We are going to give you the link to the attendance form shortly after about 30 minutes our show has started. And I think you can't wait to meet our guest speaker today, which is Dr. Yap. So I would like to welcome him on screen. Okay, let's go. Hi, Dr. Yap.
Hello, salam sejahtera and good afternoon, Mr. Harian.
How are you
Thanks for
doing?
I'm doing fine. Thank you.
Okay,
Awesome.
glad to hear that. Okay, I read your portfolio. It's such a long list of
All right.
achievements. So we would like to know, I myself would like to know, just to make it short, I just want to know, what is your biggest challenge in completing your PhD? That must be interesting to know.
All right.
We were
Good questions, Mr.
mm,
Harian.
look at that.
Most of the teachers and most of my friends ask me the same questions. As you know, we are all teachers and we have
Mhm,
job. So we have to juggle between these two, the career and the study at
mhm,
the same time. And we also have our own family personal commitment. The biggest challenge is the time management, I would say it. But I'm so thankful to my school for their
mhm,
admins, and they were very supportive. I'm very thankful to my families; they've been supportive because I'm literally don't really have a lot of times for my family and other personal or commitments. But
mhm,
they're so for these 5 years they've been so understanding. So I would say that have a supportive family is something very important. Uh, but the most important thing is how yourself got to manage the time. So the
yeah,
biggest obstacle is the time. I strongly believe that if you have a proper time management system, you'll be able to handle everything. So
okay.
don't procrastinate. Just do whatever that you have been scheduled on, and then try your best to accomplish whatever you have planned to do. So
Mhm.
that's my tips of advice. If you really want to continue and further your study while you have to work at the same time. Great.
Okay, I'll go back. I'll go back to you, especially for the time management part. I really need that kind of like mentoring from you. That's what I have always been
All right.
feeling to
No
do
problem with that.
and
Yeah.
to commit myself. Okay, so Dr. Yap. Okay, so today you are going to cover the CFR level 2, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Okay, so I think that you are going to prepare your presentation today. So while waiting for that, so just um, let me just show or read out the Dr. Yap's portfolio. I think everybody wants to know that. Okay, here it is. Okay, let me read out. Okay, so Dr. Yap Soon Li, or better known as Christopher, I would like to be called Christopher, holds a doctoral degree, PhD in English Language Education, TESOL, teaching English to speakers of other languages from University Science Malaysia, USF in 2021. He earned a master's degree in learning sciences, major in TESOL from the University of Malaysia Sarawak Unimas in 2015. He also obtained an international diploma in computer science validated by the University of Cambridge from Informatics College and a diploma in education from IPG in 2001 and 2009 respectively. Christopher ever worked in a few multinational companies in Singapore as an administrative executive. After 5 years, he returned to Malaysia to pursue his dream as an educator since he has a consuming passion for education. All right. For almost a decade, he has been teaching English, ever served various vacancy schools, Sungai Apong, CH number 6, Chanhua, and CH Andok. He is currently the head of English language panel at SJKC Tai Hong. He is a strong advocate for immersive learning of the English language and holistic linguistic skills development. His professional interests focus on English as a second or foreign language, anxiety, morphology of English language, active English language, reading comprehension, and language constructivism learning. Therefore, he involves his pupils in various communicative activities, project-based learning, and technology-infused activities that provide them with the ability to master the command of the English language. So more about Dr. Yap. He serves as the National Master Trainer of Common European Framework of Reference (CEFR) for the English language, collaboration between the Ministry of Education and Cambridge English, the District Master Trainer of KSSR English Language Curriculum, the Gatekeeper of Johor English Digital Learning Resources. Wow, that's a lot. And also the Secretary of Malaysian English Language Teaching Association, Malta, Johor Chapter. He has been honored with the Excellence in English Language Education Research Silver Award for the Teachers category for his outstanding research work in English education during the sixth Malta International Conference in 2016, the Ministry of Education Excellent Service Award for his substantial contributions in school and multiple academic excellence awards during his master's degree postgraduate study. Furthermore, he also ever be the research presenter for several formal academic conventions, the Master of Learning Sciences Third Colloquium in 2014, the Symposium on Best Practice in the Classroom in 2015, and the Johor State English Language Conference in 2017. I think I might have met you before because I was there in 2017 at the Johor English Language Conference. I was presenting something. I think, yeah, that's why your name rings a bell. I think I might have met you. Just totally forgot. Okay, so that's so much. That is so much. I hope that all of you teachers are very well inspired by the achievement that I've just read out to everyone. So we can wait to hear from Dr. Yap what he has to say about the CFR. He's the right person to talk about it, to discuss. And if you have any questions, you can keep your questions first. Listen on the question first, and only ask them towards the end of our live broadcast today, which is going to be about 10 minutes before 4. So about 3:50 p.m. That's when you start posing your question because we've got some technical challenges, so we can only allow everyone to ask questions about starting from 3:50. If you have any questions, just keep to yourself first and ask only about around 3:50. Okay, all right, that's all for now. So let's welcome Dr. Yap back on screen. Okay, okay, Dr. Yap, are you ready?
All right, I'm ready, Mr. Heron. Thank you so much.
Okay, all right.
All right, okay. Once again, thank you, Mr. Heron, for being the moderator for today's sessions. Now, first of all, I would like to recite our slogans for PPDJB. So, sederap sehaluan, tingkat keberhasilan, unggul kebahagiaan dipertahan. Right. Salam sejahtera and good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I would like to express my deepest gratitude to our PPD Unit BI and Madam Vasanthi for having me as well. Okay, for giving us the opportunity to share some information about CFR with you guys. Right. Now, so actually for today's topic is about revisiting CFR. Then my co-presenter, Cikgu Shah, yesterday, he had covered for level 1, which is year 1, 2, and 3. As for my session for today is year 4, 5, and 6, which is catered for level 2 for primary level. Now, overall for these sessions, by the end of the session, I hope that you guys will be able to review the gist of the CFR. So recognize the link between the new curriculum and the CFR, and of course, explore the purpose of the curriculum-related documentations. So these will be the 3 main objectives that I hope you guys able to achieve by the end of the sessions. All right. Now, I think this part been done. Okay, let's have a look at CFRs. Now, CFR is not something new or something strange something foreign for most of the English language teachers today, because since 2016, their Ministry of Education had been given out their training for the teachers. So from 2016, we have familiarization, and for 2017, we have curriculum induction, and then 2018, we have formative assessment, curriculum induction for year 3, learning materials adaptations, items writing, and then the years after that, we have curriculum inductions until the recent years. So throughout the years, our BPK has been given this cascading training for the teachers. So by right, the master trainers got the training straight away from Cambridge English, and then the trainers will train the teachers or the district trainers. Then afterwards, it's like waterfall, cascading. Then the KPs or the head of panels supposed to go back to your own respective schools and give the same content and train the teachers as well. So by right, CFR should be something that we are quite familiarized with. However, due to certain unforeseen circumstances and I would say unfortunate obstacles, or there might be some English language teachers are still not very clear what is CFR. Now, CFR actually is a framework that you can be used for syllabus, to create syllabuses, to create curriculum guidelines, like for the Schema Work, the DSKP thingy like that. And of course, you can use it for assessment, examinations, and create textbook as well. So the CFR itself is not a syllabus, or it's not a curriculum document. It's a framework that serve as a guideline to create all those I would say that language related or materials, training materials, or anything. Okay, so it's a framework. Now, this framework is very ideal for language or to create something to improve the language, because it describes what language learners can do in order to communicate. Because language is not we don't learn language when we don't need it to communicate. So for example, like English is an international language. It's a very important language in the whole world. So therefore, we need our kids to be able to master the language in order for them to able to compete globally. So in order for them to compete globally, they must able to communicate. So that's the main purpose of a language. You must use the language to communicate, and of course, what kind of knowledge and skills that you need to have in order to communicate effectively with your peers and with the others. Now, in this our framework, it also covers the culture context in which the language is set. So therefore, you realize the textbooks will expose the kids to international culture, to the culture from the Western world, which is quite foreign for some of them. But that's the purpose, so that they will be able to know the other cultures and how to apply the language effectively. Now, of course, the framework also gives us what kind of proficiency level the learners have to be achieved in order to master the language. All right. So the framework itself has given us a very comprehensive, a very detailed explanations of each level. All right. So that's the gist of CFR. Okay. Now, as I mentioned just now, the CFR has got 6 levels, which is we all know. Okay, it starts from the lowest level, A1. Okay, then A2, they're considered as basic user, and then when they go to their second higher level, which is B1 and B2, they're considered as independent user. When they get C1 and C2, actually they're considered as proficient user of the language. So it's a bit different from our system that we're using right now. A means you're the top, B means you're lower than the top one. So for CFR, it's different. It starts from A1, then A2, B1, B2, C1, C2. So these are the 6 level, and it involves 6 skills. All right. So the 4 skills. The 4 skills are the listening, speaking, reading, and writing. So please bear in mind, these 4 skills are very important skills that the kids need to master in order to be proficient user of the target language. And grammar is not a skill. All right. So please bear that in mind. All right. 4 skills only include listening, speaking, reading, and writing. As for listening and speaking, they involve non-written language. Okay, it's verbal. As for reading and writing, it is involved writing, as it's been clear. And as for listening and reading, they're considered as receptionist skills, means that you receive the language, you accept the language, and then you comprehend, which is it happens in your mind. So it's considered as receptionist skills. As for speaking and writing, they're considered as productive skills, means that you have to produce something, you have to get an outcome of something. So these 4 skills, we have to understand the distinctive difference between these 4 skills in order for us to carry out our lessons effectively. All right, now there are 6 levels. These are the 6 global scales. As for primary level, we only focus on A1 and A2. So now let's have a look at A1 first, okay? Now for A1 level, actually we're aiming to get the kids to able to understand and use, okay, familiar everyday expressions. So please bear that in mind. So everyday expressions, and it's very basic phrases. That's what they need to understand and use at the A1 level. And all those phrases and expressions, they linger on the concrete type needs, not something very abstract. And of course, by this level, they be able to introduce themselves, okay, or the others, and they're able to ask and answer questions as well about the personal details, where do they live, people that they know, and things that they have. All right. And of course, the most important thing, they're able to interact. Okay, they're able to have exchange. They're able to have a conversation with another person by using English in a very simple way, provided the other person is able to talk slowly, clearly, and prepared to help. So please bear in mind, A1 is very basic. Okay, they're basic user, and then we as a teacher, we have to understand that they are at a very basic level. Therefore, when we talk with them, we have to use something very simple, the language itself, and then we have to keep on rephrasing a lot of English words in order to make them understand. And then we must speak as slow as possible, but not too slow, but slow in a very articulate the words clearly to help the kids to understand. So we don't always jump to conclusion that when we say something or we ask them something and the kids are unable to understand, we straight away jump to the conclusion that, well, the kids are unable to understand, so I'll just move on or just ignore them. So that's not the right way, because as been stated clearly over here, we have to prepare to help them. We must always try to help them. That is for A1 level. As for A2, okay, as you can see here, from phrases, it's been improved to sentences. So it means that now the level is getting higher. So they can understand sentences frequently used, okay, but still it's about immediate relevance. For example, the personal, family information, about shopping, the activities that they do, the local geography means the neighborhood, employment. About employments, we don't really talk about much, but we do talk about occupations, employment of the parents, things like that. All right. And then, of course, for A2 level, they must be able to communicate in a simple and routine task, okay, which is require them to have something very simple and direct exchange, okay, and about familiar and routine matters. So please bear in mind, it's still simple and routine. Routine means that they do it every day. It's something repeated, all right, and something they are familiar with. And of course, by this level, they're able to use some simple terms to describe their own background, okay, the immediate environment and matters for the immediate need, which is immediate relevance, the one that we mentioned just now, okay, about themselves, about the families, about their favorite activities, things like that. People, what happens in the neighborhood, all right. So this is for A2 level. Now, for primary school teachers, we need to focus on these two levels only, A1 and A2. Now, if you want to know more about CFR, so I have a recommendation here. Probably you can download this book. It's available online. All right. You can have a look and you can read to understand CFR better. All right. Who knows? Maybe some of you interested to do a research or something about CFR. So probably this is a very good reference book for you guys. Now, as Malaysian school teachers, we are so lucky because the Ministry of Education have helped us a lot. So BPKS has already collaborate together with CE, all right, and use the descriptors in CFR, okay, and make it and adapt and adopt it into and make it or localize, make it something that we can use for our local curriculum. So as teachers, you don't have to bother yourself or you don't have to feel stressed up that, or I have to understand all the descriptors and I have to like apply the descriptors in the classroom. All you need to do is just follow the curriculum or framework, the DSKP and the Schema Work, because as you can see here, this is the link. So the BPKNC already use the descriptors in the CFR, okay, and create the content standards and learning standards in the local documentations that we can use in school. For example, over here for writing year 4, okay, for 4.2.4, okay. Now for this one, actually, this particular learning standards, it's derived from the CFR descriptor can do statement A1 because for year 4 is A1 high, so it's still A1 level for writing part. So for CFR descriptor is mentioned over here, the user can write simple phrases and sentences about themselves and imaginary people, where they live and what they do. So this is the descriptors in our the CFR descriptors. When we come to our local context for our year 4 learning standards, it sounds like this one. Describe people and objects using suitable statements. As you can see here, the describe means can write, okay? The phrases and sentences refer to the suitable statements here. And as for themselves, imaginary people, things like that is refers to the people and object. Now, as we know, the suitable statements here for year 4 means that they able to describe something effectively by the end of year 4, because now we are talking about level 2. Now, in order for them to do that, they should able to communicate by using the details about themselves and object in a simple way, and this include pupil themselves. So this is the definition of the suitable statement glossary. All right. So all these details you can get it from the from our curriculum related documents. Now, when we have the learning standards, then we can use the standards to create our lesson plan. Even for lesson planning, for lesson implementations, the things has been designed for us, all right? We can use the schema work. For example, for these particular learning standards, you can apply it with your own or kids based on for SK lesson 41, as for SJK is lesson 27. Now, the pupils able to write one or more statements about the characters in the story. So as you can see here, this is how the CFR being aligned with our documents. All right, so you don't have to be bothered and you don't have to feel like, oh, is it aligned? So as long as you follow the DSKP, as long as you follow the scheme of work and you use the textbook materials, and of course you do proper adaptation and or adjustment with your activities according to your pupils needs, you're fine, you're on track, you're carry out the CFR aligned lessons. Right, so this is the link. All right, as you can see here, this is what I highlighted just now. Currently, we have all these curriculum-related documentations. In another terms, we call them teachers' working materials. Now, the DSKP, all right, I will explain in details later on. So the gist of DSKP actually is a guideline for us to get the performance standards in order for us to assess the proficiency, the performance of our kids. So that's the documents that we need to refer to, all right? And as for syllabus, it's cover the contents, okay? The themes, the topics, the grammar, the vocabulary, their standard structure, the things that we covered for that particular year. So syllabus is a very useful document, especially when you need to design non-textbook lessons, because as we all know, non-textbook lessons, you have to come out with some materials. And then of course, when you design something, you don't design out of the scope. The syllabus will be the scope that telling you what you need to achieve for that particular year. Now, the next one is the scheme of work. Now, scheme of work can be considered as the RPT, okay, is the yearly plan. And this is a very good yearly plan because it's lay out all the lessons and what you got to do for each and every lessons. So this is a very good work, okay? In the scheme of work, it will give you the details, okay, what kind of learning standards or content standards that you need to achieve, what kind of language focus they need to focus on, and what activities do. They give you the suggestions of activities, what you can do, all right? So scheme of work is the vital documents that we need to refer to whenever we need to plan our lessons. Now, of course, the textbook. Now, the textbook is aligned with CFR, of course, so we don't have to worry about it. And then we have a panel of experts to choose the textbook. So basically, all these documents, all right, that we are using in school right now is all aligned with CFR. So as long as you plan your lessons and implement your lessons by using all these documents yourself, so you are literally and you are absolutely doing CFR aligned lessons, okay? Unless you're doing something else, okay? You're not following the documents. You create something which is out from the syllabus or not follow their learning standards being standard, then probably you'll be in trouble, all right? So if we are using these documents to create our lessons, we're fine. Don't worry about it. Now, let's have a look here. For year 4, okay, you'll be provided with the following documents, okay? The primary curriculum framework for year 1 to year 6. Actually, this framework has been used for all the levels, okay? It's I'll explain further after this, okay? Now, then you will have DSKP year 4. Of course, you have SK and SJK. As then you have syllabus for year 4, and of course you have the scheme of work for year 4, and of course you have you have SK and SJK. And the textbook that we use for year 4 is Get Smart Plus 4. All right. Now, next one, let's have a look at year 5 right now. For year 5, all right, same thing. You must have the framework in order to view through the progress of the whole thing. And then you have the DSKP year 5, SK and SJK. You have the syllabus as well. And then you have the scheme of work. The textbook that we use for year 5 right now is English Plus 1. All right. Okay, for this English Plus 1, because me myself, I'm also a teacher as well. Probably some of you have some doubts or question about it. Okay, I'll try my best to answer certain things that is within my scope to answer. But if it's beyond my scope to address your queries or your doubts or your questions regarding the textbook, I'm so sorry, I wouldn't be able to address it if I'm not within the scope to answer for that question. So please bear that in mind. Okay, now let's move to year 6 right now. Now, as for year 6, means after March, okay? So in March, you will have this year 6, the current year 6. Same thing, the DSKP is already available for you guys to download from BPK website, and you have the syllabus as well. However, as I checked last night, I still haven't seen their Schema Work yet. So, but it will be published soon before the new school year started. So don't have to worry. Just keep on monitoring the website, and then you'll be able to download the Schema Work. Okay, and the textbook that we use is Academy Stars for year 6. All right, so basically these are the teachings working materials that the teachers need when you're teaching the level 2. Okay, now of course teacher's book also been provided by the ministry, so use the teacher's book as much as you want. Okay, always refer to the teacher's book. So as you can see in the Schema Work, certain lesson plans, they wouldn't give you the details or explanation of their activities. They will ask you to refer to the teacher's book. So always have teacher's book with you. All right, if let's say certain schools, they unable to access the teacher's book due to some are unfortunate circumstances, due to some are unavoidable obstacles. But most of the schools, I strongly believe that you can access the teacher's book. But if you're unable to have teacher's book, what you can do is you must discuss together with your head of panels and the other senior teachers in order to create suitable activities for your lessons. If let's say after you have viewed through the Schema Work and then it asks you to refer to the teacher's book, but however you're unable to get hold of the teacher's book due to some or certain situations, so what you got to do is you need to have discussion. You have to have your own collaboration with your teachers in school, especially your head of panels and the senior teachers, to come up with suitable activities. But I strongly believe that most of the schools, all right, you guys already have got your teacher's book. All right, now next one, let's have a look at the framework now. Okay, so for the framework, this is the sample what you can see in the framework. Now framework, the curriculum framework is very important because you're able to see the progress of this learning standards, okay, from year 1 all the way to year 6. Okay, that is something very important for teachers because you're not going to teach the same class for all the way from year 1 to year 6. Probably some level 2 teachers, you always stay as level 2 teachers. So, but you need to know the prior knowledge of the kids or the things that the kids should be able to achieve when they were in year 1, year 2, and year 3. So the framework is a very good document for us to have a look, the overview of the learning standards. Now, this is just sample for listening and speaking. And as for this one, this is for reading and writing. Now, of course, with language art as well. Now, I take one sample for you guys, for example, for 3.2. Okay, this is content standard and the focus here. So it will tell you what focus, because from the same content standards, you will have multiple, you have a few learning standards. Now for this particular 3.2, my focus is in specific details for reading materials. Then I refer to 3.2.2. Now the numbering of the learning standards will be the same from year 1 all the way to year 6, but the definitions of the learning standards is different. So therefore, you guys have to be careful, especially if you're using this auto-generate or RPH template. So sometimes the author of the templates forgot, maybe you're using the year 2 RPH templates to create your lesson plans for year 3. But the definition of the standards, the numbering is still the same, but the definition, the statements of the standards are already different. So you have to be careful with that because it happens before. You are doing year 3 lesson plan, but the definition is still year 2. So you got to be careful because as you can see here, when the kids are in year 1, for 3.2.2, they still understand specific information. However, it's for simple phrases and sentences. And when they reach year 2, they'll be able to move upper level to simple sentences. All right, it's not phrases anymore, but 2 sentences. And then when they reach year 3, they're able to understand the text, but it's short, simple text. when they move up to level 2, which is year 4, 5, and 6, as you can see here, the text, the length of the text is expanding. All right, from short, simple text to something with 1 or 2 paragraphs. Means that when they were in year 3, they able to understand text probably with 1 or incomplete paragraph. It's a short, simple text, but not one whole full paragraph. So it means that it's shorter than year 4. But when it comes to year 4, it's 1 or 2 paragraphs. When they move to year 5, it's become 2 paragraphs or more. So as you can see here, the length of the text is expanding. And of course, when they reach year 6, longer text. As you can see here, longer text means more than 2 or more, 3 or 4 paragraphs. So you will have a detailed explanation or definitions of the terms in the DSKP, okay, in the Schema Work as well. All right, so these, from the framework, you'll be able to see the progress. So that's why it's important for teachers to have a look, to refer to the framework whenever they want to know, okay, their prior knowledge of the kids, or the pre-stage, or the starting point of the starting stage of the kids. If let's say you're teaching year 5 right now, you should know that for 3.2.2, the kid's supposed to be able to understand 1 or 2 paragraphs simple text. So you don't have to like simplify the text until only phrases or sentences level. All right. So this is something that provide us the framework so that we can have the overview. All right. But of course, if your kid's unable to achieve, okay, the year 5, let's say they're still unable to understand something 2 or more paragraph, probably you have to know that what's the problem here. Can they understand something simple with 1 or 2 paragraphs, or can they understand something short, or can they understand simple sentences? So if hypothetically you have a kid that unable to understand even phrases or sentences, mean that even though this kid's already in year 5, but the level is still very low. Probably the kid's still working towards A1. So for the framework, we know the level of our kids, and then from there, we can create our lessons, we can prepare our lessons in a more effective way to cater for the pupils' needs. So please bear that in mind. We teach the language according to the pupils' needs, all right? Now, next one. So I've done with the framework. Now I move on to the next one. Okay, the next documents are, this one already been introduced by Cikgu Shah, okay, yesterday, probably, but this one we focus on level 2. Now, DSKP, you can call it another term, SBEL, okay? It stands for Standards-Based English Language Curriculum, right? So you have SK version and SJK version. Now, in the DSKP, the most important things that we have to bear in mind is in these particular documents, you be exposed with the performance standards, okay? It's very important for teachers to know, all right, what to expect from the kids in order to achieve the intended learning standards and content standards. And of course, from the performance standards, we allow our kids to reflect on themselves, okay, about their own learning language journey and how to improve themselves. So it works 2 ways. The teachers needs to know how to measure the standards objectively. At the same time, we let the learners, means our kids, our pupils, to know about their level right now and what they need to do in order to achieve higher level or make themselves better or improve themselves in terms of the mastery of the English language. So in these documents, it is stated clearly everything. All right, so let's have a look. Now, before I move on, please bear that in mind. The Ministry of Education already give us the curriculum target for each and every year, okay? So here, level 2 from year 4, all right? Year 4 actually is still A1, but it's A1 high, okay? When it comes to year 5 and 6, they reach higher level in terms of CFR. They reach the A2 level, but it's an A2 low for year 5 and A2 mid for year 6. All right, this is the curriculum target that we need to enable our kids to achieve. All right, so let's have a look here. In the DSKP, it's stated clearly. All right, now for performance level 1, the notes indicated clearly over here, pupil displays minimal ability to achieve the curriculum target. Means that, for example, for this year 4, the target is A1 high. That's the curriculum target. Means that the kids still, you give them one, doesn't mean that they fail. They're still able to do something. They can show you some ability to achieve the target, but it's quite minimal. But when they get level 2, means they're on track to achieve the curriculum target, which is A1 high. So 1 and 2 means that they can achieve it, but only minimum ability, means that they're lower than A1 high. They're in between A2, A1 mid, and A1 high is in between. All right. But if you have some kids which is very poor in standard, maybe they get lower than that. Now, when they get level 3, as you can see over here, pupil achieves expectations for the curriculum target, means that the kids already achieved the target. So please bear that in mind. So you have to give the level according to the notes and the descriptors here. We don't give their level according to, or you divide the marks from 100 marks equally into 0 to 20 or 0 to 25 is level 1, and then level 2 will be 25 onwards until 40 or something like that. You don't do that. You have to assess the kids according to the descriptors, okay? And the notes is there. The notes are being given to give us a clear picture of the level. So when they achieve level 3, actually they achieve the expectations of the curriculum target, which is A1 high. So when they come to level 4, now level 4 means that they're 4, 5, 6, as you can see here. The kids are 4 is they're exceeding the expectations for the curriculum target. As for 5 means they exceed expectations of the curriculum target. And then when it comes to 6, they already exceeded expectations. So 4, 5, 6 means that they are really good in the language. Okay, they can achieve higher than the curriculum expectations, the curriculum target, and they can do it. You can prove that, right? But of course, this is just notes for us to refer to have a general idea of the performance level. Later on, we will have a look in details of all the learning standards. Okay, I give you some samples. Now, as you can see here, this is for year 5, same thing, same notes, same explanation here. All right. Now, as for year 6, the notes also same for all the levels. So please always bear in mind, when you kids get 3, doesn't mean that they fail. Even they get 1 and 2 also doesn't mean that they fail. It's just that they're on track to achieve the curriculum target. They're still able to show some ability. It's just that they need a lot of support from us. All right. Okay. So now let's have a look at the content standard and the learning standard in DSKP. Now, DSKP will tell us clearly, all right, the focus, okay, or something like the framework. For example, over here, 1.1, the content standard, you recognize and reproduce the target language sounds. Now, for this particular content standard, you want to focusing on recognize and reproduce the target language phonemes intelligibly. So you have 1.1.1, the learning standard, to support that focus link, the focus skill. Then as for 1.2, as you can see here, it has been subdivided into 5 learning standards. For this 1.2 means that they're able to listen and understand meaning in a variety of familiar contexts. But from this particular content standard, you have 5 different learning standards to achieve different focus. So in the DSKP, it will tell you clearly what you need to focus on and which learning standards that you need to use in order to achieve that particular focus. So therefore, I would say that all the documents there, all the information is out there for us to refer to. So we should have a very comprehensive understanding of the CFR and the content standard and the learning standard. All right. Now let's have a look at this. This is a sample of the performance level 1 to 6. Now, as you can see here, you have a lot of different descriptors. All right. For example, level 1, you have about 3 descriptors. Same with level 2, level 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now, when you assess your kids, okay, this is for listening skills. This descriptor is for listening skill. It's very important for you guys to understand that you assess the kids according to the descriptors. Now, in order to assess them according to descriptors, you have to know which learning standards that you are aiming for. Now, I give you a sample here. If I want my kids to achieve 1.2 content standards, okay? And then I have these 5 sub-learning standards, 1.2.1 all the way 1.2.5 over here. All these 5 learning standards, I have to refer to these particular learning descriptors, because in your in the DSKP itself, for one level, it got a few statements, few descriptors for one level. So you need to know which learning standard that you're aiming for and which learning standard you need to refer to. So of course, when you do holistic for listening skill, then you got to read through everything. All right. Now for just now, for this 1.2.1 all the way to 1.2.5 means that from understanding main idea to specific information to short, simple narratives and to supported classroom instructions and questions, all these 5, I'll have to refer to only this one, this particular descriptor. So for level 1, as you can see here, we give the kids level 1 when they can display minimal understanding, minimal, okay, of the ideas, okay, the information, the details of longer simple text, short simple narratives, longer questions, and with a lot of support. The words that I highlighted is the word that I want you to pay attention to. Why? Because when we have a look at level 2 here, when they achieve level 2 means that they're able to display some understanding, means that the level of understanding is increasing. And of course, it's no more short, simple narratives. It's narratives, okay? But the text, the rest are still the same, longer questions, longer simple text, classroom instructions, and again, with a lot of support. But the difference here is they have some understanding, means that they have more understanding than level 1, but yet this still requires a lot of support from us. But please pay attention with the first word here is can. Can. All right? So they can do something. They can do that. This means that even though they are year 1, they still can do certain things. Okay? Now, when they come to year level 3, right, they can display understanding, all right, means the understanding level is higher than minimal in some right now, understanding of the main idea, the information, the details, but the short, simple narratives is come back again because the understanding level is higher right now, means the level of understanding is more. And of course, the support is getting lesser, means that we don't give them as much support as for level 1 and level 2. We just give them support. When they get to level 3, they can understand, all right? But the text is getting longer. It's longer, simple, all right? And of course, we support as well. However, there's a time frame being given. Mean by responding to us when they show their understanding, because understand is a internal thingy. It's a comprehension skill that happens mentally. All right. So in order for the kids to show their understanding, they have to do something they're able to show you. That's the response. Okay. That's the response. All right. So from the response that we assess the understanding, that they're able to respond to the task that you want to give them at times. At times mean occasionally, sometimes. All right. So it means that level 4, the frequency of giving you the targeted, the frequency of giving you the correct answers that you're looking for is more than level 3. So that's the time frames being given for us to see, to assess, to so that you will be able, you can decide whether the kids is getting 3 or 4. Okay, if let's say 3 means that sometimes they're getting less than at times, mean the frequency of giving you the correct answer might be lesser. All right, but for when they come to level 4, they can achieve that understanding with the longer text, okay, with lesser support, but occasionally. All right, the time there. As you can see here, 5. When it comes to 5, the difference here is the time frame. They can give you the targeted response most of the time. And of course, a sequence of supporter. If you're aiming to assess your understanding of questions, is a sequence of questions. Means that the question, the length of the question, the sequence of question is different. So the level of how you give them the question. For example, just instead of asking them 1 or 2 questions, you're asking them maybe 5 questions at a time. All right. So the sequence of supported question is different from the other level. So the descriptors give us a very clear pictures how to differentiate from each level. And of course, when they achieve level 5, means that they're able to give the targeted response most of the time, but not at times anymore, but most of the time. When they achieve level 6, as you can see here, not only they can understand longer text, simple longer text, and then longer questions, okay, classroom instruction with support, but they can do the task easily, means independently. They can do it so easily that without your help, without your support at all. So when your kids able to achieve that, only then you can give the kids level 6. So if, let's say, you ask a series of questions to your kids, and then you don't have to do much explanation or rephrasing the words or the questions, or you don't even have to translate it into something else. You just ask them, and straight away the kids can engage with you and give you a response promptly and easily. Then the kids consider as achieve level 6. But of course, when you test them all those things, the language level have to be catered for A1 high. You cannot ask them something like C1 or C2 level, and then you expect them to respond to your task easily. All right. So you have to bear that in mind as well. Now, from the descriptors, we can see clearly how to differentiate different levels and give them a very justifiable, objective level according to their performance. All right. Now, that's one sample for the listening skills. Now, you can have a look at the DSKP. I believe that the teacher should be very well aware of the DSKP, and you should be very familiar with DSKP, because when you do PPT or formative assessment, you always need to refer to DSKP. All right. Now, in the DSKP, there's one word, hardly achieve, hardly do something. Now, hardly doesn't mean that they failed, okay? Hardly according to the definitions, okay? We always need to, not depending on our own explanations, you must always refer to our creditable references, okay? So for this one, is from Cambridge Advanced Learners Dictionary. Hardly is only just, almost not. Means that they can, but almost not. But they're not fully not zero. They still got something yet. All right. That's the meaning of hardly. So don't always assume that one means that they fail, two means that they always fail. But of course, for the level, we have to bear in mind the minimum target. We hope that they can achieve level 3, because level 3 is to achieve the expectations of the curriculum target. If they can achieve level 3, you will try to push them to get higher level 4, 5 to 6 to become a more proficient language user of English. Okay, now, so I have done with the DSKP, because this course is only for, or just we just talk about something briefly about a gist, because the training have been given for years. Now we just do something revisiting what we need to know about the documents, what's the important things we need to be aware of. Okay, so I've done with the DSKP. Now I need to move on to the scheme of work. Now, at this current point of time, we only have primary year 4 and year 5. And the same thing, we have SK and SJK, but year 6 will be available very soon. Okay, now let's have a look at the scheme of work. Scheme of work, since SK and SJK are using the same textbook, but we have two set of scheme of work. Why we need to be aware of it? Because as you can see here, A is the SJK scheme of work using the same book, okay, until unit 8. All right, your lessons only lesson 96 until 96 lessons. But as for SK school, same textbook, same level, year 5, okay, same unit. The last lesson is lesson 160. So for SK, they have 160 lessons. As for SJK, C or T, you guys only have 96 lessons, but you teach the same books, okay? Why this is important? Because sometimes I realize that in SJK school, or the parents might have a different understanding. They expect the teachers to teach the whole book. But as you can see here in the schema work, it will tell us which page should we focus on, and which page. Some of the pages they're not even touched, because due to the time frame that been given to us. We only have 96 lessons, and we have to cater all the important skills. Now, please bear in mind, we don't teach the textbook. We teach them the skills. We teach the kids the skill. All right. We teach the kids how to achieve the learning standards in order to master the language skills. And the textbook is just the supporting materials that for us to apply the language skills. So therefore, you don't teach the whole textbook and assume that you cover all the learning standards or then you cover all the skills. No, you'll be rushing the syllabus. However, unfortunately, I would say that it's very unfortunate. Sometimes some parents or even some teachers, they still have misunderstanding. They don't know that for SJK, we have lesser lessons and certain pages, certain topics, certain things in the textbook we don't have to cover. So this one, you have to convey the message to admin. You have to convey this message to the school and to the parents in order to make them understand. Or else, if you were to teach every single thing in the textbook, trust me, you will just rush everything and you wouldn't be able to really train your kids to master the intended learning standards that been designed by BBK. All right. Now, I've done with this part. Okay, let's go to the glossary of terms. Now, I always remind the teachers, when you have the learning standards, instead of making your own definitions and interpretations of the standards, you must always refer to the glossary of the terms. For example, here, for this particular learning standards is to understand with support the main idea of very simple phrases and sentences is 1.2.1. As I listed out here is from year 1 all the way to year 5. We don't have the glossary from the year 6 yet. So let's have these definitions can give just now the framework, as I shown you guys, the framework is giving you the general idea, the preview, the overview, how the phrases been expanded to longer text. But in the schema work here, you can have the glossary of the terms. It gives you the clearer definitions for what does it mean by very simple phrases and sentences. As you can see here, very simple phrases and sentences refer to what? To this in structure means that they are short and they contain just one clause. Example, I'm 7. She can swim. He's got 2 sisters. Now, the idea here is they contain something very easy for pupils to understand. So some more examples been given. They live in Kuching, or I like bananas. You see that? So this is what it means by very simple phrases and sentences. When it expand further, simple sentences, as you can see here, the thing is expanding more and more due to time constraint. I cannot really explain everything. I will straight jump to level year 5. As you can see here, when it comes to year 5 with 1.2.1, they have to understand longer simple text on a range of familiar topics. Now, what does it mean by longer simple text? It means that the text has to be more than 4 or 5. Okay, with longer simple text with 4 or 5 sentences, and in text is more than 1 paragraph for sure. It should be contain 2 or more. Okay, this the definition will be given. This is for listening text, not the reading text, because when you give them something to listen, we have the listening script. So this one is referring to the script. All right. Now, it's always important for teachers I always remind my panel members to refer to the glossary if they have some doubts or they unable to understand clearly with the learning standards. Always refer to the glossary. Now, let's have a look at the lesson cycles. Now, for year 4, okay, it's come with listening, speaking, reading, writing, language arts, and language awareness. And please bear in mind, language arts and language awareness is not skill dominant lessons, okay? Listening, speaking, reading, and writing, these 4 are the skill dominant lessons. Means that when you teach listening lesson in your classroom, you're supposed to have a lot of activities that showcase that you are teaching the kids how to practice listening. The kids should listen and do more. If let's say you have a listening lesson right now, but you keep on asking your kids to copy something or to write something or to read something a lot, then the skills, the activities is not showcasing, is not showing dominant skill. So therefore, always bear in mind, okay, the lesson has been designed in a way that you need to focus on the skill. Okay, as a language teachers, we teach the skill, we teach our kids how to master the skills. Okay, all right. Now this is for year 4, and this is a sample for you for unit 1. Now, as you can see here, lesson 1 to 16, they all belongs to unit 1. And the skill and focus is from listening, speaking, reading, writing, then language arts. Then I come again, listening, speaking, reading, writing, and language arts. You see the patterns the same, and then you have the language awareness. So language awareness is sort of like a consolidation of what you have taught them. And you work on, in the scheme of work, the lessons and or the activities in the language awareness has been given just as suggestions. Okay, you need to adapt and adopt the lessons according to your pupils' needs, because you know your kids better than anyone else. So after you have after you complete unit 1, so from your formative assessment, you probably know that which skills or which language focus they still need to work on. So from there, you focus on that, the weaker part, during your language awareness. All right. Now, of course, the arrangement of the skills is not always standardized like this one: listening, speaking, reading, writing, and language arts. No, this is for unit 1. When it comes to unit 2, the patterns might be different. Okay, it might come with the speaking first, then listening, or the reading first, and then writing, things like that. So, okay, but however, this is for us to know. Okay, this is the cycle. All right, this is cycle for year 4. Now let's move on to the lesson cycles of year 5. Now for year 5 is more or less the same. It's just that for year 5 this year we have one more lesson, which is consolidation. Now I give you guys a sample here. What does it mean by consolidations? As you can see here, this is year 5 unit 1. Now the previous lesson, some of you guys might ask, where's lesson 1 to lesson 16? That's for starter lessons. And I have to remind the audience, okay, the teachers, of the samples that I'm giving you guys here is for SK. As for SJK, you will have lesser lessons, and the arrangement, the structure of the lessons will be different from the SK school. Now this is for SK, okay? Now for SK unit 1, you have lesson 17 all the way to lesson 34. Now, as you can see here, the arrangement is quite more or less the same. All right, the pattern: listening, speaking, reading, writing, and language arts. But however, after the language arts, you will have a consolidation. All right, so consolidation is more like the sub thing that you do for language awareness. Language awareness covers the whole unit. As for consolidation, it's more like consolidating after you have covered certain parts in the unit 1. Okay, then after lesson 22, you start with another cycle of the lessons: listening, speaking, reading, writing, and language arts. Then once you finish language arts, you have another second consolidation for unit 1. Okay, then after that, you move on to the third cycles: listening all the way to language art. Then the last lesson will be language awareness for the whole unit. So the lessons has been structured in a very effective way to assist the teachers to implement the lessons in order to enable the kids to master the language skills and the language content that they need to achieve for that particular year, right? This is for year 5, okay? For year 5. Now, lesson cycle or SK versus SJK. I always highlight this one again, like just now. The total number of the lessons, the structuring of the lesson is different from SK and SJK. Right? This is for year 5. I give you guys a sample here. This is something very important for you guys, especially when you need to explain to the parents, or when you need to explain to your admins or any teachers that are still not aware of the difference between these two types of school, because we are using the same textbook here. All right. But however, due to the time allocation, we have different lessons that have been planned for the lessons throughout the year. So therefore, BBK has designed 2 types of schema work, one for SK and one for SJK. Now, as you can see here, for SK, the schema work one unit consists of 16 lessons for starter. it will be 18 lessons in unit 1 to 8. Okay? Apart from starter unit means that all the 8 units, the standard will have, they have 3 language arts, 2 consolidation lessons, and 1 language awareness, or sometime the language awareness will be changed to project-based learning lesson. It's not always language awareness. Sometimes it might be project-based learning. All right. So we have, as you can see here, all right, 3 language arts, 2 consolidation, and 1 language is either language awareness or project-based learning. That's for SK. Now, as for SJK, as you can see here, for starter unit, SJK has only been given 8 lessons. As for the other units, you guys only been given 11 lessons to cover the important contents in the textbook. So this is the thing that you can see here is half of the lessons for the starter, and is almost less than half as well, but at least we have 11 as compared to 18 lessons, okay, for SK in units, in every unit. Now, therefore, you don't teach all single pages in the textbook. You only focus on the page that been designed, that been in the schema work. You just follow the schema work, then you'll be fine. Okay, if there's anyone don't understand this concept or this part, you just explain to them by showing these 2 things. All right. Now for SJK, every unit you have language art lessons, consolidations, language awareness, or project-based learning. Again, the numbers of language arts, the numbers of the consolidation will be different from SK. It's not standardized, okay, as compared to SK, because SK, they have 160 lessons, so the structure is more standardized. But for SJK, is not that structured in a way, but it's been designed to enable the school teachers, for SJK school teachers, to get the kids, to SJK pupils, to achieve and accomplish and master the important, the common learning skills, the learning standards. All the skills have been covered for both type of school. Please bear that in mind. All the skills have been covered. All the learning standards has been covered. It's just the repetition, the occurrence of the learning standards might be different. The frequency might be different. That's the only difference, all right? So we cannot jump to the conclusion of saying that, oh, SJK is not teaching the kids the essential skills that they need to master. No. Both type of school, BPK has designed the learning standards that enable both type of school, both type of kids to achieve the essential learning standards and the language skills. All right, so I've done with the list, the differences between SK and SJK in terms of the lesson cycles. Now, next thing, this is not something new again. This is a lesson plan template that's been given to all the teachers. This is a standardized lesson plan template. And of course, some of the school which involved in TS25, the learning, the lesson plan might be different a little bit, you know, but more additional details, things like that. But this is a standardized. The standardized one, very simple. You must have the theme, the topic, the focus skills, the content standard, the learning standard, the objectives, things like that, and the pre, while, and post lesson stages. And of course, the language focus, what focus that you need to focus on. And of course, when you write lessons, lesson plans, it's important for you to indicate the lesson number in the schema work. If you're teaching lesson 1, you just indicate lesson 1. If you're teaching lesson 2 right now, indicate it is lesson 2. All right, now let's move on. In order to plan a proper lessons, in order to execute the lessons properly, you need to have a very smart learning objective. So SMART, okay? SMART means this one, the SMART is not something new. Again, it means that your learning objective have to be specific, it have to be measurable, have to be attainable, have to be something that the kids can do. So these are the most important thing. The objective must be clear, must be measurable, and must be attainable for the kids. And then you have to use the phrase will be able to. So by the end of the lesson, pupils will be able to. I think this one already been covered by Mr. Shah as well yesterday. And of course, you need to have 2 learning objectives, one for the main and one for the complementary. Okay, now I give you guys some sample here. Let's say I'm teaching this particular lesson and my focus is the adverbs of frequency, to describe routine. For example, I always. Now the adverbs of frequency that cover in this particular year is always, always, usually, sometimes, and never. And the learning standard is for writing 4.2.3, describe basic everyday routines. Okay, now how are you going to write a learning objectives? You're not going to copy the whole thing, but at the end of the lesson, pupils will be able to describe basic everyday routines. And then you said that is the learning objective. That is not the right way of writing the learning objectives. The learning objectives is supposed to look like these. By the end of the lesson, pupils will be able to write at least 3 simple sentences to describe their basic everyday routines by using the targeted adverbs of frequency correctly. Okay, as you can see here, the right is the action of that focus skills. All right, so when people look at your learning objectives, you know that, oh, this is what you are aiming for to achieve. And this will be something that you want to assess as well. So the kids must be able to write what again? 3. Okay, this is the numbers. But of course, certain school, or last time we've been informed that we don't really need to write the numbers. But in Johor, we've been instructed that we need to write the numbers in order to make it very clear, measurable numbers. So it's 3 simple sentences. All right, write what? Write simple sentences. That simple sentence is about what? The simple sentences that describe their basic everyday routines. And in the sentence, they have to use the targeted adverbs frequency, means that always, usually, sometimes, and never, and correctly. So when your kids able to achieve these 3 things, then you can say that the pupils already achieve or accomplish the learning objectives. So this is sample number 1. Now, sample number 2 over here, the language focus it has or have got, and the learning standard is 4.3.1. Use capital letters, full stops, question marks in the guided writing at sentence level. Now, for this particular level, okay, for this particular focus and learning standard, the learning objective is supposed to be like this, okay? But at the end of the lesson, pupils will be able to understand and use has or have got by writing 3 simple sentences with correct punctuations. Correct punctuation refers to the targeted punctuations. Either topics is focused on the capital letters and full stops, then that will be the punctuation that we need to focus on. From here, as you can see here, you can use the word understand. There's nothing wrong. This is from BPK, okay? You can use the terms understand, but however, you have to define understand by doing what. So as you can see here, is understand by writing 3 simple sentences. That is how you measure the understand, because understand is something abstract. So you have to give a very concrete, measurable things, something very vivid that anyone can measure them objectively. All right. So the kids able to understand, and how do I know they understand? Is they able to write 3 simple sentences with the correct punctuation, and in the sentences they're using has or have got, which is the language focus. Now this is the right way of writing the learning objectives for this particular sample. Now I give you guys another sample here, the 3rd sample. Let's say the focus is on family vocabulary and adjective to describe people, and your learning standards 3.2.2 is reading, understand specific information and details. Now, this is how you write it. By the end of the lesson, pupils will be able to read and understand. That's the action, to read and understand. Short, simple description. The text refer to the description here. And again, understand by doing what? Understand by matching family vocabulary and words describing people with 3 correct pictures. So from here, you can see it very clearly. You can measure it. You can measure your objectives objectively, very clearly. Okay, means that from here, I can know that my kids read and understand by doing this action, by doing the matching, and all the matching of the vocabulary and the words and the pictures must be correct. If they're able to do that, means that they already achieved my learning objectives. So onto this stage, I have done with 3 samples, I think, or should be sufficient enough for teachers to write proper learning objectives, because we always get feedback from the observers saying that some schools, certain teachers might still unable to write proper learning objectives. So all these samples have been given throughout the years. So by right, the teachers should have sufficient knowledge how to write by using the samples over here. So always refer to the sample when you need to write your learning objectives. But if, let's say, you're still not so sure and you still have doubt how to write a proper learning objectives, always refer to the officer who visit your school, or refer to your head of panels and other senior teachers who, well, or if they have more knowledge in terms of the lesson planning. Now, so please bear in mind over here, okay? There are certain things that we have to bear in mind. Now, if let's say in the scheme, for the schema work, all the lesson has been planned in 60 minutes. We call it 60-minute lessons. However, in school, if you have been given only 30 minutes per lessons, what you got to do is you got to plan and adapt the lessons accordingly so that it will be from 60 minutes to 30 minutes lessons. All right. So that's the first thing you need to bear in mind. As for the second thing, we know that we have textbook lesson and non-textbook lessons. So normally non-textbook lesson focus on the skill-based, the language arts, the project, PBL means project-based learning, or the language awareness. So skill-based maybe is a consolidation for certain skills, or maybe that particular lesson is focusing on listening, but it's not using any materials in the textbook. So this is considered as non-textbook lesson. And again, for non-textbook lessons, you always need to refer to the syllabus, all right? However, for language arts for year 4, 5, and 6, you have something else to refer to, which is the contemporary children literature, the CCL, all right? That's the language arts or materials, the things, the guidelines that we need to refer to. And again, the teachers has been given the reference book, the teacher's guidelines for CCL, okay? That's for language art lessons for level 2, means year 4, 5, and 6. As for year 1 to 3, they have different types of language art lessons, right? Now, teachers, you are allowed to create, okay? You may create worksheets, flashcards, or any other materials, any other learning resources as you deem suitable and as you deem able to cater for your pupils' needs. But again, all those worksheets, the flashcards, the materials, the resources must be within the scope of that particular year. So that's why syllabus is something very important for you to refer to what kind of language items that you can use when you create all these extra materials. For example, you want to give your kids some worksheets and they have to describe themselves with something, with certain words, with certain objectives. You have to use the objective that's been within the scope. You don't ask them to use something which is so advanced from the current level. So you have to refer to the syllabus. Even though you have been given the autonomy to create all this additional thing, but you have to bear in mind, you need to always refer to the documents, means the syllabus over here, in order to understand. And of course, you have to refer to the schema work for their learning standard that's been designed for you, that been structured, okay, for that particular year, okay? Now, for language awareness lessons, this one I already mentioned just now. In the schema work, they serve as suggestions here. So you may adapt accordingly to the needs of your pupils. All right. Next thing, continuous scale. Please bear in mind as well, never ever skip your pre or post lessons. All right. Now, why is it so important? Since the training in IPG or your university, we've been constantly been reminded of the importance of pre and post. All right. Pre, you don't straight away go into the classroom and start to teach. You have to go into the classroom and get them ready first. That's the purpose of the pre-lessons, for them to reactivate the prior knowledge, for them to motivate themselves to follow through the lessons, for them to have some prior knowledge of the content that they will be covering to, things like that. So there are a lot of pre-lesson tasks or pre-lesson activities that you can do, and the suggestions has been given in the schema work. And again, you don't have to worry. all you got to do is just refer to the schema work for the ideas, for the suggestion, for the pre lesson. Same with the post lesson as well. Now, why post lesson is important? Because once you have done, given them the development activities for them to master the language, you need to consolidate the lesson. You need to have a proper closure of the lessons. You need to, for post lesson, you don't teach them something new anymore. You just review again, okay, reconsolidate what you have taught. And of course, if you want to introduce something new, it should be just introduction of, so that they can get, the kids can get ready for the connection for the new lessons, which has some link with their current lessons. So there's a lot of different activities for post lesson, aiming for different skill, aiming for different needs, okay, different objectives that you want to achieve. So one thing, you cannot neglect or rush them. Just don't do that, okay? So this is for the pre and post. All right, next one. The self-assessment should be completed in class time, not given for homework. If we refer to the schema work, especially starting from level 2, a lot of lessons have been prepared for self-assessment. You know, the self-assessment is kind of like a questionnaire for the kids to assess themselves, to reflect on their own learning, whether they're able to achieve the targeted language focus that they want to focus on. All right. So that self-assessment worksheet, you cannot give them as homework, okay? You have to ask them, guide them to complete the worksheet during the class, because that is to reflect on their lesson. It's not a homework, okay? That part. And then complementary skill is not an optional skill. Never ever just skip the complementary or think that complementary is not something important. Complementary skill is not an optional. Means that it's still compulsory for you. It's just that it's not a dominant skill. Our main skill is the important skill that you need to achieve, okay? But complementary skill is just something is to support that main skill. It should not be the dominant skill, okay? That's the difference. But it doesn't mean that you can disregard or just skip the complementary skill. You should not do that, okay? Please bear that in mind. And of course, for textbook-based activities, some of the activities may not appear in the same order as been stated in the student books or the teacher's book. Okay, you have to follow the schema work. Okay, please bear that in mind. When the arrangement of the activities, the lessons and everything, when you realize they are not following the page numbers in your textbook, don't just like rearrange them or restructure them. No, you just follow the schema work. If let's say the schema work is referring to page 3 today instead of page 2, let's say you finish page 1, supposedly you should go to page 2 and then page 3. Sometimes it might, you know, the arrangement might be a bit different. You just follow the schema work, okay? All right, bear that in mind. All right, bear that in mind. So this happens, okay? Now, last but not least, the formative assessment and the differentiations. Always bear in mind when you have your lessons, okay, once you've done your lessons, you need to have formative assessment. Without formative assessment, you won't be able to tell, you won't be able to know whether you kids already achieved or accomplished the learning objectives or not, okay? And of course, you need to have differentiations because we cater for different kids, okay, from different proficiency levels. All right. Now, in the schema work, you have been given the strategy how to do differentiations. So you can take that differentiation strategies, or you can refer and have your own differentiation strategies. But remember, in each and every lessons, you should have differentiations and you should have steps that are able to showcase that you are doing formative assessment. Now, formative assessment, we have a training for that. Now, due to the time constraint for this one, last time in 2018, if I'm not mistaken, we have formative assessment, okay, for CFR. We have a very, very structured and a very comprehensive, okay, training regarding formative, how to do proper formative assessments. Now, for these sessions, I'm just giving you guys a preview, so I'm not going to touch a lot about formative assessment, but formative assessment is something very important, Okay, so always don't leave these two things out: formative assessment and differentiation. Now, basically, I have covered most of the important things for today's topics. All right, I hope you guys able to pick up, okay, the important G's or important things that you need to remember. All right, I have done my presentation here. So, Mr. Harrian, back to you. It's for the Q&A sessions right now.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Yap, for such a thorough explanation on the Cefr for level 2. Now we move straight to the Q&A session. I need to scroll up all the way to the top. I think it's
Yeah.
beginning from here.
Okay. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Mr. Harrian. Before we move on, I need to cover. I think there are two questions right yesterday.
Okay.
Yeah. So the first one is asking the pendekatan bertema. So there's a theme
Mhm.
approach, right? Actually,
Okay.
for CFR, we have themes as well. So a
Mhm.
theme is normally for the transition, you know that they have a theme, and all
Mhm.
the other subjects will be using the same theme. Let's say the theme is about our tree, and then if mathematics, you'll be counting trees. And then for our English, you will be
Okay.
learning the parts of the tree. So for
Mhm.
CFR lessons, we also have theme as well. So if you want to follow the theme for their transition, of course you can follow that as well. And but of CFR definitely have their own theme. Okay, so that's for
Mhm.
the theme part. As for they print out the scheme of work. Scheme of work is a kind of lesson plan. By right,
Mhm.
you if you can access to soft copy, you don't have to copy it. If you already, because scheme of work is very thick, it's very thick material. If you wanted to print it every single year, I would say that is a bit it's not it's not efficient in terms of go green. Now we got to go green, right? So everything have to
Mhm.
step. So I don't see there's a point of reprinting the same scheme of work every single year. You can
Mhm.
just my suggestions is like you can have the scheme of work printed for one copy. When you need to
Mhm.
map you have to lay. Let's say you need to list out the lessons. Okay, you need to map out their learning standard, things like that. You can prepare another list, which is simple one, maybe 1 or 2 pages enough to cover the whole 4 pages for 160 lessons.
Sure.
That one can be signed, and you can
Mhm.
assign week for that if you want to do that. But actually, you don't have to do that as well if you don't want to. But different schools have different ways of doing the things. But to reprint their schema work again and again for every single year might be quite not go so good for their
Mhm.
environment. All right.
All right. Okay, I hope that answers the last two questions from yesterday's live broadcast. Okay, let's move on to the first question we have today for Dr. Yap. It's actually from teacher Shamini. Okay, if a pupil is not able to read, how do we evaluate them? Is it okay to award PL1, or is there a minimum target that I have to achieve?
All right. Okay. Thank you, Cikgu Shamini. Good questions. Okay. However, I would say that if are people not able to read, here maybe the question has to be specific. Read in terms of what? Because in reading you have a lot of learning standards. Reading for main ideas, reading for specific details and information, reading to understand the vocabulary from the contextual clues. So you have a lot of different learning standards. So here you need to know which learning standards that you need to evaluate. So if you're
Mhm.
saying that the kids unable to read, is the kids unable to read means they're unable to do all the learning standards or only a few of the learning standards? So this one we have to be clear first. If you're doing transition forms right now,
Mhm.
because for transition forms you have a details of learning standards. So you cannot give a holistic just for the kids cannot read. So every learning standard, so I'll just give the same level because the kids cannot read. Probably the kids cannot read for specific information. However, the kids maybe can read and understand the main idea. So this might happen. So we have to understand which learning standard you need to evaluate. But of course, when it comes to the holistic assessment for the offline template that you need to fill in, or for the year-end PPT you need to fill in, for that one, then that will combine all the learning standards. And from there, the teachers have to assess out of all these learning standards, are the kids really cannot achieve most of their learning standards? If the kids really unable to achieve, or they need a lot of support to achieve, of course, it's okay to give them level 1. The minimum here, I don't know. The minimum target, is this referring to the target then set by their school or set by the PPD? Or because for BPK, we never BPK in the guideline, it did indicate it, the guidelines for PBD, customer assessment, it did indicate, if possible, get the kids to achieve level 3. However, kids have different proficiency. If they're unable to achieve, you cannot, okay, they must achieve 3. No, that's why they have 1 and 2. So for me, my answer would be, of course, definitely, you can give them 1 or 2 accordingly, according to the descriptors. Now, if your school have different ways, like maybe you have been forced, like you must push the kids to achieve level 3 or certain level, then that's different story. But the ministry never said that you can only achieve that level. That's why in the documents we have 6 levels. You give them according to the descriptors, not according to what people want us to produce. That's supposed to be the right way. Yep.
Mhm. Right. Next questions we have. Hi, sir. From that sample objective, can you, sir, give example on how to write success criteria? I think this is going to be the most common answer
Okay.
to the question among teachers nowadays.
All right. Again, thank you, Cikgu Gaya, for these questions. Because for our session for today, due to the time constraints,
Mhm.
I didn't manage to cover the success criteria. Now, I think this one, instead of for me to just say it out verbally, it's better that we have a proper presentation with a slide in order for you guys to see clearly. Actually, success criteria has been introduced many years back then, but again, not all the school had been because learning objective is that you need to write it, but success
Yeah.
criteria is not something like compulsory for all the schools, except for certain
Yes.
schools that involve in certain programs. Then you need to write success criteria. But back
Mhm.
then, we did introduce about success criteria and how to write them. Now, due to the time constraint, I think this one probably in the future time, after we have discussion with our Madam Vasanthi and our other SIC plus, probably we'll have another sessions that cater on specifically for how to write success criteria, things like that. So this one you can refer to 2018, okay, in the formative assessment training, in the books that been provided by the Cambridge English. There's some parts of the books that have given a very clear and detailed explanation how to write success criteria for CFR lessons. So you may ask your head of panel to
Mhm.
give you the information, because those document has been given, the soft copies, everything has been given. So Cikgu Gaya, maybe you can refer to that
Okay.
material. All right.
We have two questions left. The last two. Okay. Doctor, is teaching grammar items under language awareness or LA is merely focusing on what our pupils are lacking?
By right, according to what been indicated in the documents from BPK, language awareness is for them to reconsolidate the language items that we have taught them, but cater for pupils' needs. So it means that there are a lot of items that you need to focus on, right, in a unit. But
Mhm.
within 60 minutes, it's impossible. We all teachers, we know that it's impossible
Mhm.
for you to cover all the items. So therefore, there's the clause stating that you cater for your pupils' needs. Means that if, let's say, your kids still are unable to master the present simple tense. Let's say in the lessons you have adverbs of frequency, you have the present tense at the grammar items as the language items, but maybe adverbs of frequency they don't have much trouble anymore. They can understand always and never, but yet they still lack of understanding how to use the the simple present tense correctly. Then probably that will be your focus for your language awareness. Mm.
Okay. And the last one we have, I think it's similar to what we had yesterday. Basically, the license of the CD for whiteboard interactive software has expired. I think it must be about the CD, right? That you talked
Yes,
about
the CD.
yesterday.
Mm.
So,
Okay.
are you going to
I,
enlighten us again for
yeah,
that?
yeah. I think for this one, I'm so sorry that this is really beyond my scope, beyond my capability, because this one, to get their license, they need money, simply put it. All right, but this is not cannot be
So
controlled
we
by
just
any
wait
one
it.
of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Just wait.
just. But of course, this one has been highlighted to the authority. So
Mm.
we hope that in the future time, the licensing issues can be resolved. All right, is it okay?
I only have options to access a
Options,
simulator.
definitely. Nowadays, thanks to Google, okay, Mr. Google, and thanks to internet nowadays, you can
That's right.
access a lot of materials that available that be
Telegram groups,
created
yeah.
by anyone. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
if you need something, you just go to YouTube. Now we have Miss YouTube as well. I call it Miss YouTube. You have Mr. Google and Miss YouTube. You can always refer to these two platforms in order to get materials to teach your kids. All right. So,
Okay.
all right.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Yap, for helping us out with all the necessary details and the necessary
Mm.
information that we need to know. We need to
Yeah.
master in the language CFR
Yeah.
accordingly to our students. So,
Okay.
congratulations to everyone that has participated in our session today. Do not
I'm
forget.
sorry, Mr. Harrian. Is Mr. Shah here? Is he here?
Yeah, let's welcome him.
Is it okay?
Hey,
Can we welcome Mr.
Trish, are
Shah?
you all ready?
Yeah,
Okay, he's there.
he's there. Yeah.
Hi, Tricia.
Okay. Hi,
Hi,
Cikgu
hi.
Shah.
Welcome back.
All right.
Yeah.
So I think because for my part I cover for year 4 to year 6, and then actually this is a one session but divided into two parts. Year 1 to 3, and then year 4 to 6. Probably Mr. Shah, do you wanna tell us the gist of
Okay,
the
Tricia, would you like to probably
and
turn
then
off
we can
your
connect the whole thing?
other device that is accessing the YouTube broadcast? I think
Okay,
you're
all
using
right.
two
So,
devices, right? So there's a
okay,
little.
actually, the thing has been covered. I mean, it's comprehensively by Dr. Yap. Okay, it's just that maybe some of the things that I forgot to cover yesterday maybe has been cleared today by Dr. Yap, of course. And it's just that a few things like things to do with what do we call that? The language awareness and the language arts, right? The consolidation lesson for primary level 2. So there's not much problem in the primary one because we don't really have that. So, and
Yeah.
one more thing, the success criteria and things like that, and the formative assessment, we couldn't really cover that everything within this 1/2 an hour, and then it's going to be another session. I think I really hope that our PPD will come out with some kind of this kind of webinar in the future, so that we can cater to all the teachers here in district Johor Bahru district, and then we hope that everyone will be in sync when we implemented the CFR aligned with our lesson and the curriculum. Okay, that's all from me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Cikgu Shah. And Dr. Yap, do you have any last words to say to our teachers?
No, actually, all the things
Okay.
have been said. Yeah, I
Okay.
just hope that
Alright.
follow the document, right?
Okay, so on behalf of the unit Bahasa as well as the Sektor Pembelajaran of Pejabat Pendidikan Daerah Johor Bahru, would like to express our gratitude to our um, speakers from yesterday, Cikgu Shah, and today, Dr. Yap, for being with us, for spending the time just to um, assist in terms of understanding the overall framework of CFR. So I do hope that you have gained interesting find from what CFR is all about, and the necessary documents you need to probably complete. And after this, we will be able to do our job properly, and we can always refer to these two speakers. They are always available for any inquiries. That's all for today. So do not forget to fill in your attendance. Okay, so for me, okay, Encik Heriansyah binti Puan Lasurian, SISC TVET PPD Johor Bahru, would like to remind you, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like and share this video, especially to our friends that couldn't make it today. And see you again next time.